We are 79 minutes in reverse at the moment on the Sky News Weather Channel, and 79 happens to be the value of the name Irving, and it's 11:13. Nathan Breeze was 13 and Jacob Wetterling was 11. That's in New Zealand, by the way, but that's kind of appropriate because Jake lived on Kiwi Street in St. Joseph, Minnesota. So Jacob Wetterling and Nathan Breeze. Jacob Wetterling from Minnesota in the USA, where it's currently absolutely freezing, down to about minus 20 or 25 recently, Celsius. And Nathan Breeze from Victoria in Australia, Kinglake West. So 79, the value of the name Irving, which is what my prediction's for. Cyclone Irving. I think it's going to be the worst one. The worst, the biggest, the most damaging, the most intense tropical cyclone for this season for Australia. That's my prediction. And yeah, if you want to know what I think of Australia's politicians and the major political parties in Australia, well, personally, since I had a partner visa application rejected and immigration never even bothered to notify me of the decision, and so I never found out the outcome of the decision until it was too late to appeal the decision. So I contacted them and they said, oh sorry, you'll have to talk to your partner, and because we've sent stuff to him. And it was like, wow. And so I did, and he sent me the stuff, and it was like too late. I mean, they dragged it out so long. We were apart for over almost 2 years, so my partner had pretty much given up on the whole thing anyway. And then I went to my local member in Eden Monaro, which is Mike Kelly, and I spoke to his immigration person, and she just defended immigration. Like, she just goes, oh well, the onus is on the applicant to check their email, including their spam folder. And I was like, are you serious? You're defending them. And so what I've decided is, come the next federal election, I'm not voting for either major party. I'm going to leave my ballot paper blank as a flake of snow. And I'll vote in the Senate for someone who I feel is going to stand up for me and my alleged rights as an Australian citizen, which I now feel are pretty minimal. Because really, if the authorities want to get you out of the way, or just, ignore you, just take $7,000 off you, and not even recognise a relationship where you've provided over 1,000 pages of information, photos, statutory declarations, sure, they can do that. They can be bullies. They can be nasty like that, and they can defend each other. I mean, I can see how the two major parties in Australia, it's just an endless blame game, back and forth on most issues. If they're not blaming each other, they're blaming state governments. And it doesn't matter if it's Labor or Liberal. The reason I'm not going to vote is because you are forced to vote either Labor or Liberal. There are no other options, because preferences end up going to one of the major parties. I don't like either of them. I'm absolutely fed up with them. I was personally absolutely disgusted at the way they treated me last year. So next election, not voting. So, that's my thoughts. That's what I think of the people in Parliament House, especially in the House of Representatives.
In 2018, we're launching Spears on Sunday, a program aimed at setting the agenda for the week and taking a big picture look at what's really going on. Politics moves at a cracking pace these days, so we want to give you a place to catch up with what's really happening. We're also getting outside the bubble to hear what ordinary Australians think of the folks in this building and the job they're doing.
Australia's preeminent political journalist,
David Spears. Hi, Spearsy.
Spears on Sunday, Sky News Live.
So, 9:13 now, Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. And yeah, still now we're 78 minutes in reverse. Jacob Wetterling was born in 1978. And 7 plus 8 is 15. And that's the age that a certain boy I know, who the last time I saw him was talking to me about volcanoes, will be turning on Sunday, the 7th of January. So 4 days from now. Today's the 3rd of January. 2018. So this boy I know who's turning 15 in 4 days' time, the 7th of January. Last time I saw him, he told me he was doing a school project on volcanoes. So I've come up with the idea there's going to be twin signs in the weather on the 7th of January, which are going to act as a warning for Tropical Cyclone Irving. So I've gone with volcanic eruptions in Indonesia. Why not? Agung and Sinabung, two volcanoes in Indonesia. But it could be something like fires. I mean, fires, volcanoes, whatever. Fire is fire. Heat is heat. And hot air is hot air. That's what you get coming out of Parliament House every day. Hot air, hot air. Arguments, debates, but they don't actually do anything. And the recent decision to legalise same-sex marriage, well, I thank the Australian people for that, because that was actually Peter Dutton thought he could get a no vote by suggesting the postal survey. Blew up in his face. Blew up in his face, like a party popper at a gay wedding. And I think that's fantastic. So I thank the Australian people. I don't think the politicians. I think they're a bunch of idiots. And now I won't be voting at the next election. No way. I will be voting. I will be leaving my ballot paper blank as a vote of no confidence in both major parties. Primarily because when I went to my local member about an injustice that happened to me last year, the response I got was dismal, appalling, awful. So yeah, simple response. But look at everything. I mean, I mentioned Nathan Breeze was 13. He died in Australia's worst ever bushfires, Black Saturday, 2009. The people of Kinglake West in Victoria, do you think they've had a lot of help from government? The people that did survive? Because Nathan's dead, and his two sisters are dead, and his mother's dead. And a lot of people are dead because of what happened there in 2009. Unless you have a bit of a spiritual side to you and you think maybe Nathan and Jacob are still alive out there somewhere. And which is kind of my choice. I don't think that makes me schizophrenic. The fact that I'm not a Christian, I'm not religious. I guess in my own way I'm a Christian, but I put a big distinction between me and people like Peter Dutton. Yeah. Because there's no similarity between me and Peter Dutton. I'm not a racist, for starters. I don't demonize people. I'm not homophobic. I'm not cruel to people, at least not deliberately. So, yeah, I do draw a big distinction between me and some people who call themselves Christians. And who knows, I said in my application, if you people betray me, I'm going to make a prophecy against you. And I'm doing that with the help of Nathan and Jacob. And like I was just saying, do you think the people of Kinglake West in Victoria have had a lot of help from government, from councils? Well, council can't do much. Councils don't have much money. State government, though, it's a Labor state government in Victoria at the moment, has been for a while. Previously it was a Liberal government down there. It really makes no difference. Or the federal government. Do you think the people of Kinglake West, where there was just such a shocking loss of life on Black Saturday, do you think they've had a lot of help from government? No, they haven't. They haven't. They've still got very touch-and-go mobile phone reception there, and the roads are awful. And those are two things that actually contributed to the loss of life on Black Saturday, along with very poor management of the situation by the authorities. You should never have a situation where people are trying to evacuate from where they live from 1 p.m. through to 4 or 5 p.m. and then decide, after being told the house is probably the best place to be, they decide to stay in their house and then die. That should never happen. Never. Ever. They should have been able to evacuate. There should have been a safe, open road for them to evacuate. There should have been people in Kinglake West telling people to evacuate. Because there were fire ecologists who had mapped where that fire was going to go, and Kinglake West was well and truly in that area that they knew the fire was going to go after the wind change hit, which is precisely what happened. Those people should not have died. Nathan's death doesn't have to be in vain, and the deaths of all those people do not have to be in vain. Australia is in a lot of danger as a result of climate change, primarily because of bushfires. Why? Because winter rain is less. Summer rain is more. There's more growth. It's green. It's great for most of the year, but when it does dry out, watch out, because we're prone now to getting extreme heat waves a lot more frequently than we're used to. And that's something Australia needs to be really mindful of, and it would help to have a government that does not use climate change as an issue to, fight for power over. And until Australia's government stops doing that in relation to climate change, energy, and all those important issues, and until they stop demonising people from various races and various parts of the world and promoting racism, which promotes violence, I'm not voting for any of them. I've had enough. I've had enough of them using people in that way and using really important issues just to try to get elected into power. And my response is, mostly because of the way I was treated as an individual last year, and I got to experience firsthand just how cruel they can be, is to not vote. Or to vote as a vote of no confidence in both Liberal and Labor. That's my choice. And that's my right as a citizen, which is what I will be doing.
In weather headlines today, we have more showers and storms, possibly severe in northeast New South Wales and southeast Queensland. We had widespread supercells in the northeast of New South Wales and southeast of Queensland yesterday. A big drop in temperature, some wild winds, some golf ball size hail, and there could be more on the way today. Also, we are looking at a lot of heat moving across the southeast of the nation over the next few days. We had up to 38 degrees in Perth yesterday, and it was quite warm across Sydney. This is Tamarama Beach, one of Sydney's eastern beaches. Beautiful there. We are in for very hot temperatures as we make our way into the weekend. Let's have a look at some of the capital city temperatures. So for Sydney, for example, we've got 37 degrees forecast for you on Sunday. Melbourne, 41 degrees we anticipate on Saturday. If we get to 41, it will be our hottest in 2 years, and a big drop in temperature on Sunday.
Summer storms have been severe over the past few days through many parts of New South Wales and Queensland. Here's some shots from the Blue Mountains in central New South Wales on Tuesday afternoon. Some hailstorms coming down here at Katoomba. This was posted on Twitter. Further north, we had Bullabarra with golf ball sized hail, and severe storms also hit the south coast of New South Wales. Storms raged across the northern rivers and have hit southeast and central east Queensland the past 3 days. Now this is all due to this trough of low pressure. That trough now is moving towards the north, so most of the storms are pushed off the coast. We'll still see isolated storms on Wednesday afternoon, northern New South Wales and southern Queensland. Thursday though, the storm outbreak is over. We've got an area of high pressure along the east coast. An inland trough though will continue to cause storms through some inland parts of Queensland through the second half of this week. But the big talking point later this week will be the heat over southeastern Australia. Look at the chart here, high in the Tasman Sea. As a result, that high directing a northerly airstream through eastern Australia. The winds go parallel to the isobars, so that northerly, you can track it all the way back to the northern interior of the country, the heat engine of Australia. We can see the hottest temperatures in 2 years in some areas. Get to that shortly. Firstly, storm outbreak. This is still convective Wednesday afternoon, northern New South Wales, some showers further south, and also southeast Queensland. You'll notice here on the forecast rain, it's very coastal compared to the last few days. Not as many storms through the inland, and those storms will not be as widespread. On Thursday, that's just showers in a southeasterly for the southern Queensland coast, but there will be storms forming through the central inland part of the state. And through the week, we'll see heavy falls through northern Queensland. For some areas, it's been a quiet start to the wet season, but we are expecting moisture and rain to build up over the next few days. Notice on the forecast rain here heading into the weekend, heavy falls each and every day through tropical parts of Queensland. That's indicated by the darker shading here on our model, but just coastal showers further south. So not too much for southeast Queensland after this afternoon. Here's the forecast rain over the next 8 days. You can see the totals are hit about 25 to 50 millimetres, that darker green, but a lot of that's already fallen overnight from storms. So not too much rain over the next week through southeastern Australia. In fact, many areas including Melbourne and Adelaide seeing less than 1 millimetre of rain over the next week. Let's talk about this heat now. This is a big one. We've had a southerly airstream to start 2018 for southeastern Australia, temperatures below average, although Queensland and WA, you've had a hot start to summer. Over the next couple of days, temperatures will start to climb. Notice more of an easterly developing there over the western part of South Australia on Thursday. But the heat engine is through the northern interior, and a northerly's already drawn that heat down over the southern part of WA. So temperatures, for example, in the Goldfields on Wednesday, climbing above 40 degrees. There's the northerly on Friday, spreading through South Australia. 40 plus is the deep red shading through the inland parts of the state, including the west coast. Now, the peak of this hot weather will be Saturday for many areas. You'll notice here we're climbing above 40 degrees through much of Victoria, including Melbourne, and that darker red shows 45 degrees plus. So near record high temperatures, western New South Wales and northern parts of South Australia. But there's the cool change, a southwesterly hitting Adelaide more than likely Saturday afternoon with a massive drop in temperatures. Melbourne and Hobart, you'll probably see that cool change later on Saturday. But for Sydney, probably not until later on Sunday. So for our capitals, here are the forecasts between Thursday and Saturday. Adelaide, 41 degrees. Melbourne, 41. That would be the hottest day in 2 years for Melbourne, and Geelong expecting a similar temperature. Hobart gets up to 33 degrees. And with that change coming through, it's a mostly dry change. We're not expecting a huge amount of precipitation. Now, Sydney, 31 on Saturday, but Sydney's western suburbs are forecast to hit 45 degrees on Sunday, near record high temperatures even for the middle of summer. Now, we are expecting only very light showers associated with this trough of low pressure. Now, that's what's bringing the cool change. Notice it stalls, though, through New South Wales. Not a huge movement there early next week, and as a result, we'll start to see moisture gaining in that area, and we'll see some showers and thunderstorms, but probably not quite as intense as the storms we have seen over the past few days.
Severe storm.
So I wonder what the twin signs will be in the weather. Will it be fires? Will it be volcanoes in Indonesia? Or will it be something else? I don't know, but there's going to be something, and the date I've flagged is Sunday the 7th. Saturday is going to be a really hot one there. Adelaide, Melbourne, 41. But like they said, Sunday is going to be the really hot day in Sydney, with the western suburbs of Sydney forecast to reach 45 on Sunday, and that's the day that I've flagged as the date to watch. Watch out for something to happen on that date that's going to act as a warning, if you will, for Tropical Cyclone Irving, which is going to be the worst one of the season for Australia, if I'm right. If Jake and Nathan have managed to give me the right kind of gut feeling on that. And I do trust my gut feelings. I'm not one to bow and cow to bullies in government or psychiatrists who want to tell me, oh, you've got schizophrenia because you talk about coincidences. I don't. And I don't like being labelled in that kind of way by people that are just so arrogant and hypocritical that it's not funny. And that's why I think my decision to not vote at the next election, it's not just the things I've said, there's a whole heap of other reasons why I've decided to vote no confidence, which is actually a much better thing to do than to not vote at all, is to simply leave your ballot paper blank. And people say, oh, that's stupid, then you're just not having your say. Well, I am going to vote in the Senate. I'm going to vote in the Senate for who I think is going to represent my values, because I can tell you now that the major parties of Australia do not represent my values, and they are cruel, they are bullies, they are dishonest, they constantly, it's just a non-stop blame game between them, which I think a lot of people are sick of, to be honest. And I'm over it. I think a lot of people are over it. And I really resent the way I was treated last year. And I decided to do something meaningful in response to the way I was treated, because it's not just me. If you're employed by the Australian government these days, you're not even allowed to criticise the government. You're not even allowed to have something on your Facebook account where someone else makes a criticism of the government on your account. I mean, is that the definition of democracy, is it? Is that the freedom that Australian soldiers historically fought so hard to protect? Really? Is that the free democratic society that young people go off to war and die for? Really? Because that's pretty damn sad if it is. Worse than sad. Yeah. We're not that far ahead of the dictatorships of the world, if you ask me. You know, if they want to, all they have to do is quote the Mental Health Act to you, put you in a psychiatric institution, and you're at the mercy of psychiatrists. Not to be confused with psychologists. I have a lot of time for psychologists. I don't have any time for psychiatrists in general. There are some good ones, but they're few and far between. Especially when it comes to my experience in the New South Wales mental health system. I wouldn't go near them now. I would not go anywhere near them. I was suicidal because my partner was told he couldn't come back to Australia by immigration after he barely overstayed his student visa, and they put me through torture. There is no other word to describe what the Australian government put me through than torture. And it's worse than what happened to me when I was 13, by far. When I was 13, I was lucky to escape from a predator. And that's something I included in my application to immigration. And I said, if you betray my trust, after I'm putting my trust in authority for the final time, and I said, if you betray my trust this time, I will make a prophecy against you. Not just one, two. It will be a twin prophecy against you. Against you for betraying my trust. The trust of someone whose trust has been shattered too many times by the people that are meant to be there to help and care, and then it turns out they're not. They're there to wound, hurt, betray, bully. And my experience in the Chisholm Ross Psych unit in Goulburn was that I was told, you will take this medication or we will hold you down and forcibly inject you with medication. And that's because I had shared my theories on who I think the predator was that approached me when I was 13. Somehow that makes me schizophrenic, really? I mean, what if I just point out that right now we're 76 minutes in reverse. I was born in 1976. Does that make me a schizo?
Australia.
Does that really make me a schizo? I don't think so. Noticing a coincidence here or a coincidence there. For example, 76. 7 plus 6 is 13. Nathan Breeze was 13 years old. 13 is too young to die after spending 3 or 4 hours trying to evacuate. I don't think that makes me schizo. 13 is too young to be disbelieved by authority figures in your life about something that happened to you. Something violent. Yeah, if I sound angry, angry doesn't even come close to what I am. I've been betrayed by people that are meant to be there to protect and look after, and turns out they're there to bully, harass, torture. Torture is the word I'd use. That's what the Australian government did to me in 2017, 2016, right through. And if they want to now bully me into saying, you have to go and work, I am not capable of even driving into town, because as soon as I get behind the wheel of a car, I am unable to keep control of my mind, because I feel so betrayed by the government, by the psychiatrists, by people that, I grew up being told these are the people that are there to help you and protect you and look after you. And to be betrayed and tortured by them is the worst. It really is. It's worse than anything else. Here's the pub.
It's going to be about 5 degrees above the average. Now, speaking of storms, we had supercell storms and squally storms really affecting that northeastern part of New South Wales. Yesterday, we had Evans Head 22 millimetres in just 10 minutes, and even for the lower Blue Mountains, we had some golf ball size hail. The SES crews do an amazing job as always, and a lot of cleanup, a lot of roof damage, and yes, a big cleanup today, unfortunately.
And please don't tell me I need treatment, because all I needed was to be treated fairly, and I needed to be with my best friend and my partner. So, yeah, a vote of no confidence, that would be my response. And don't bully me anymore.